Hey friends, welcome back to the Finding Joy in Your Home podcast. I'm your host, Jami. Today we are talking homeschool curriculum. I don't know if you can see my big massive piles that I've got sitting here, but we're going to talk about what we used this year, some things we're continuing on to next year, and what we are changing. So in the last episode, you can back up if you want, go listen to that. We talk about evaluating your homeschool needs. So we don't talk about specific curriculum, but how do you kind of evaluate what your needs are going to be from year to year? Because there's definitely times to change curriculum. There's times to stay with the curriculum. How do you evaluate that and figure out what do we need to do for next year? So I get this episode requested every year. What are we using? This is the most complicated it's ever been. We're technically going to have 6 kids in school this year, so that's part of it. And the kids are getting older, so we have a lot more varied subjects going on. We do not just use a box curriculum. Nothing wrong with that at all. But we use a whole bunch of different stuff. So I'm going to try to keep everything brief as we go through it. So that's what we're going to jump into. All right. So if you're listening to the audio of this, you'll be just fine. If you're if you're watching over on YouTube, the video of it, I am going to hold up our curriculum just so you can kind of see it, but it's just the cover. So if you're listening on audio, you're not going to miss much. Okay. I need to put my phone on airplane mode because I have got text messages just flying into my phone. Okay. So we're going to dive in because I got a lot of ground to cover. So first thing, I'm going to talk about our schedule because we are actually already starting on next year's subjects. Don't freak out. You don't need to do that. It's because we're having a baby soon. And so I'm trying to get ahead a little bit. So this current school year, if you are listening, this is beginning of April 2024. This school year, we had our oldest twins are in 5th grade. Next twins are in 3rd grade. Magnolia's in 2nd grade. And then Maverick has been 3, almost 4, and Ricky has been 1. And I'm pregnant. So we are rounding out this school year, and new baby number 8 is due in August. So what we're doing is as we're wrapping up subjects, we're just jumping into the next year's subjects because we're just going to school through the summer, and then we will be able to take some more concentrated time off in August and September when the baby's born. And then we can just pick up where we were. So it's really beauty of homeschool is that you can be super flexible. So next year, then we will have, or next year / next month, as we start next stuff, we'll have twin 6th graders, twin 4th graders, 3rd grader, and Maverick is 4, but he is like, I'm not super big on super formal preschool. I think you can play. I think you can count bananas at Costco. You can sing ABCs in the car, but he is very, very motivated. He's bringing me books saying, "Mom, teach me how to read." He's very excited. So for his 4th birthday, I got him some fun preschool books. And for him, I'll share what we're going to do, but we're just going to do some light stuff with him this year and see how it goes. And if he takes off, then we'll continue. If he needs a break, we'll do that too. So I'm really chill with 4, 5, 6-year-olds, just kind of depending on their interest level. And what I've learned too is a 4-year-old might be really, really excited. He gets all his letters and everything learned. And then he kind of hits a wall because developmentally, he's not ready for the next step yet. And so we'll take a couple months off and then we'll pick it up again in a few months. So that's what I'm planning on with him. But it will be our first year really doing any sort of formal school with the 6 of them, but he'll be super easy. Okay, so those are ages, what we're doing. So I had to get myself, I am on top of it this year because I really wanted to make sure we went straight into our new subjects so that August, September will be nice and easy for us. We can take off time, not feeling like we're behind right there at the beginning of the school year. All right, so the homeschool planner that we use, we're just going to start running through this. This is the well-ordered planner. I have used this for maybe 3 or 4 years now. It is a dedicated homeschool planner. I love it, especially with having so many children in, all the different grades, doing all the different things. I don't know if you could hear the door, but my son just came in. This is so awesome because it gives you spots for all the kids. It's made by a family who just had their 9th baby. I want to say 9th baby. So they know what it means to homeschool a large family too, because I've used some homeschool planners where there's just not enough room for our entire family. So if you have 1 kid or you have 9 kids, you can use this really well. And it's got just all kinds of cool planning through it. So this is a planner. I'm not a big fan of planners that are expensive. And this one's not like outrageous or anything, but it's big and good quality. And so it's worth every penny. So you can check that out. Well Ordered Planner. I think their website is wellorderedhomeschool.com. We love it. This is this year's version. And I have not ordered next year's yet, but this goes, I think, through July. So, or June. So I need to get the next one ready to go. Okay. The next thing I wanted to mention, as you're going to see through here, is I don't have any like Bible study specific resources. We don't do an actual Bible study during our school. Most of the curriculum we use, most of it, all of it for next year, I think, is all Christian. So we have like, we did history this year and it was all about Adam and Eve. And I mean, there's so much that's woven in that's Christian, but we don't do a specific Bible. We don't do scripture memorization because Jason does all of that with our family worship at night. So that's not something that I am specifically doing. I don't use a Bible curriculum. Those are all things that Jason does with the kids and as a whole family. So that is something that I don't have to do during school. And I'm actually really thankful for that because we've got a lot going on. But some people love doing it first thing in the morning. We just don't. We tend to do it right before bed, which for us works well. So for this school year, let's dive in. I've got my stack here of stuff from this year. I'm going to just show you guys some samples. All right. So first thing is math. For math this year, all 5 kids have been doing the good and the beautiful math. What I really love is that it's free. So we just download the free PDFs, print them out myself. For math curriculum, I was just looking at, I think Singapore math, which I've heard great things about. It's like $165 per student per year. And that's that's a budget breaker for us right now. And so I've loved that it's free. You can just print it off. I'm not saying that Singapore or something like that's not totally worth it. But Good and the Beautiful has historically worked really, really well for us. We've really liked their math. It is a much more rigorous, challenging math. So if you have a student who's not as good at math, we're going to talk about, it's too much. My 4 older boys, though, have all been really good at math. Math has just come really easily for them. My husband has a math degree, so I think it's in the genes. It's not in my genes, that's for sure, but it's in Jason's genes. And so Good and the Beautiful has been great because it's been on the advanced side. It's worked really well for them. And we actually, last year when we had a baby, we took off a year from doing Good and the Beautiful, and we did an online math called Teaching Textbooks. It was fine. We didn't totally love it. It felt a bit too easy for them. We had them all in a grade up, and we just didn't totally love it. And it was fine. It was good for the year of having a baby. So this year we switched back to Good and the Beautiful, and which was fine, but this was our first year doing the Good and the Beautiful's new math program. So they had their old math program that a lot of people complained was too big and too much. And I understand that because we skipped. I'll just go in and be like, oh yeah, you've already done 10 of those. You don't need to do the rest of the page. Like we kind of just will modify it. So it actually had worked well for us. But they came out with their new Simply Good and the Beautiful math, or Simply Math. And it was supposed to be this great big update. And so I will put a pin in that. That is what all 5 kids did this year for the first time, was the Simply Good and the Beautiful math, Simply Math, whatever it's called. And so that is what we did this year. Let's put a pin in that because we're going to come back to that. For history, this was another new one for us. For history this year, we were really excited about this math. It's called BiblioPlan. And it is, I don't remember how many different books they have, but this was book 1, Ancient Days. We bought the full history program, which was like 8 different books because they had map pages and all these different things. I really liked it at the beginning of the year, and it's just not my favorite history. It's not bad, but it is supposed to be, I think, it's supposed to be K through 6th. And even my 5th graders we do a lot of history reading. Even for me, I have a degree in history. You guys, I love history. And even for me, this reads like a boring textbook. And that is a bummer when you're trying to teach K through 6. Like, I wouldn't even necessarily want to hand this to my high schooler and say, here, read this as your history, because it just was so much names and dates. And even in 3 paragraphs, it would be like 70 different names, all throwing out all these dates, to where you didn't get a really good story of what they're talking about. And while parts of it were interesting, it read like a boring textbook. And that's a bummer. And I think that's why a lot of people don't like history. So it just was not one that worked out well for us. We're at the very end of the book. We're going to finish this up, but we will not be continuing with Biblioplan next year. I have really high hopes for this, but it just was not our thing. It was not our thing, and that's okay. We also do a lot of history. I'm a history nerd. I love history. I think history is great for teaching all kinds of things. So in addition to that, we would read to go through it. It's not too much because it's one chapter a week. And so we would break up, we'd read like 3 or 4 pages a day. So, I mean, it wouldn't take us very long. So we've also been going through our Star Spangled Story. There's two textbooks, parts 1 and 2. And last year we had started part 1. And we just never quite got through it. It wasn't something that we were doing as consistently. So this year I decided we're just going to keep reading through this as well, because each chapter only takes 10 or 15 minutes and we use it as read aloud time. This is from Knotgrass. We've done their 50 states curriculum, and Knotgrass is amazing. So I think this is K through 4th or something like that. This first one, but it's American history, and they read like stories. Like, they are so good, and yet you're learning so much, and there's dates and there's important stuff, but Knotgrass is amazing. So this one we went through, we're almost done with it. We're almost done with this second book, and these are just awesome. I wish Knotgrass had more. I wish they had one that we could go through like every single year, but they just don't have that many. But they're amazing. So especially they have a lot of American history, and actually their middle school and high school ones look really good too. So this was awesome. Such a winner. Absolutely love Knotgrass. So if you're looking for an American history program for younger elementary, I mean, any elementary, these are great. These are awesome. Kindergartner, first graders going to listen to the stories as well. Language arts. We started something new for language arts this year. So our history was new this year, and our language arts was new this year. So, and I guess technically our math, because technically it was the new Good and the Beautiful, but it felt like we were just going back to Good and the Beautiful. So we switched to something new. This is a little bit more expensive. The books are not that bad, but at the rate in which you can go through these books, like you can go through 2 levels in a year, it could get expensive, especially for multiple kids. But okay, let me tell you what it is first. So this is Well-Ordered Language from Classical Academic Press. And I really hemmed and hawed. I did a lot of research this year on what writing program I wanted to use. We were really leaning towards IEW, Institutes for Excellence in Writing. Jason did them growing up. He loved it. And I was waffling between that and Classical Academic Press. But when I saw that their language arts goes really, really well with their writing program, I downloaded samples of both. I decided we were going to try this because we really wanted to kind of beef up some of our language arts and do so from a classical approach. And so we dove in, and we've absolutely loved it. So I have already ordered, this is Language Arts Level 1A. We actually backed up all 4 boys. This is technically not, I think this is like 3rd, 4th grade maybe, but we backed up the 5th graders and had them do this too, just so we were all on the same page, because they start having you diagram sentences. So we kind of backed up and have had all 4 boys do it at once, which has been really helpful because it's definitely more of like a teacher-led program. And so all 4 boys have been doing it. And so I've already ordered Level 1B, and it's really great because I think the books are probably like $25 new for like the kids' books. I found them used on, I think, Abe Books for $6 a piece. So I got all of next year's ones. I got them used. And so I got them for such a good price. So it actually did not feel expensive at all. So this is the teacher's guide. What I really like about this curriculum, because it's meant to be used in classrooms as well, which sometimes can be good for homeschoolers, sometimes can be bad. But with teaching the 4 boys at once, they all have their workbook, and my book shows every single page of theirs, everything that's on it. So I can sit there and I can say, okay, guys, we are on page 110. Do you see the 3rd question? This is what you're to do. And so it's been so easy to work through because I'm not constantly, that's one thing about Good and the Beautiful. No. Gather Round. That's one thing about Gather Round that's kind of frustrating, is I have to constantly like ask for their notebooks to be like, okay, what does your notebook say to do? Which is just hard when there's many of them, and we're trying to do it. So I really like the teacher's guide, and I really love this program so far. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to have the boys who are going into 6th grade, we're going to have them kind of rush through the next 2 books, just work with them at a faster pace because they're very capable of doing it. But I don't want to miss any steps with the language arts and get them kind of back up to like the grade level that they should be, because they can totally handle it. So this has been a huge winner. Love it. And then you don't have to do these in conjunction. They don't actually they don't match up, but they absolutely pair super well together. And that is Classical Academic Press's Writing and Rhetoric program. So they have, how many books? They have 12 books. So you can start at book 1, go all the way through. Book 1 is not grade 1. These start in 3rd or 4th grade. And the first one's on fables. And I just absolutely adore this writing program. I love it. Now, I have not personally used IEW. It's a great program as well. But we have just really loved this. This one's been awesome. So I already ordered book 2. So they'll go straight into book 2. I'm getting ahead of myself, for next year. So that's the 4 older boys, 3rd grade and 5th grade. Next year will be 4th grade and 6th grade. For Magnolia, who's in 2nd grade, will be going into 3rd. I have switched her to Master Books Language Arts. I do not love The Good and the Beautiful's language arts. I never have. I like it for like preschool, their kindergarten program. I don't need to get into it, but it's just not my preference for language arts. So Magnolia's been doing master books and has loved it. I will eventually switch her to well-ordered language, assuming we stick with that. I will probably switch her to that eventually. But for now, the master books has worked really well. She's loving it. It's been great. It's been teaching her everything she needs without being ridiculously overwhelming. So we love that. Okay. Handwriting. The kids have been doing the Good and the Beautiful handwriting. I just think their handwriting is really great. It's really simple. Works really well. And they've all been going through the different levels. So the older boys are all doing cursive. Magnolia did level 2 this year. She'll be doing cursive next year. And they're just great, simple, easy handwriting. So that's our handwriting. We have got, okay. Let me go through my list. Okay, so science and other topics. I get this asked a lot. Yes, we still use Gather Round, but we do not obviously use it as our core anymore. So we used to use when the kids were all little and we had, a bunch of little ones on those younger elementary grades, we used Gather Round as our core. So it means that we used it as like the bulk of our school. And then we just added a little bit of supplementation in. And for those lower grades, it worked really well. And I know some people still, even through middle school, through high school, they'll use that as their core. I think that's fantastic, but it just wasn't serving us. A couple of years ago, we switched away from it being our core and started adding in other things, which means we don't get through as many Gather Round units as we used to. So we still do love Gather Round units. I personally was just they were not robust enough for us. I definitely think if your child, I could even see middle school, high school, your child already knows how to write. You've done a writing program. You could really use Gather Round very well because you could be like, we're researching dinosaurs, write an essay on this. It does not teach language arts though, in any way, shape or form, even though it does say that it is an entire curriculum. Everything but math. It just does not teach language arts and writing in a way that we felt like was robust enough. And so for us, it's not something we use for everything anymore, but I still love it. I love unit studies. I love getting to study units and topics together. So we have been using Gather Round for our science and for other topics that we want to dive into. So right now we are in dinosaurs. We just did rocks and minerals. We're in dinosaurs right now. Everybody's loving it. We do one lesson a day, and dinosaurs has been really, really fun. Rocks and minerals was great. We really petered out by the end, though. Sometimes studying for that long on one subject, you start to. Rocks and minerals was not our favorite. Dinosaurs so far has been amazing. So we do really like these. I print them out ourselves. So Gather Round can be expensive if you're ordering the physical copies from them and you're doing 1 unit a month, that could get really expensive. If you're using it as your core, I still think it's really affordable, but if you're adding on to a bunch of other stuff, it can get expensive. I buy the $55 unit, which includes the teacher's guide and all of the different levels, and then I print them out myself. So, and we definitely, it probably takes us about 2 months to get through a unit because we're not doing it as our core. And so for me, it ends up working really well. So that's what we've got. This is what we do for science, and extra stuff is we do move through those gather round units. We have also we did campfire curriculum's another one that's newer, very, very similar. And it's unit studies. We did square foot gardening from campfire curriculum. I think it was a mini unit. It was fine. So campfire curriculum also has some other good units that are similar. So that's one thing when people ask, how do you homeschool different ages, especially when you have multiple ages in elementary school. Once they get into middle school, high school, they can really run most of their subjects themselves. They can do their own history and science. You don't need to be hands-on involved, teaching everything. When they're younger elementary and you've got 2 or 3 different kids in elementary school, I always suggest doing unit studies. All of your kids in elementary school can study the same history at the same time, the same science at the same time. There's so much that, even our boys, we're doing the same language arts program. There's so much that you can double up on. So if you are kind of drowning and doing individual lessons for every single child before they can really start to do more independent work, I really encourage you to look into more unit studies because it's amazing. So we gather around and we do all these core subjects together, which is really fun. All right. And then our last kind of formal thing we do a lot of extra reading and read alouds and all that. But our last formal time we do is our morning basket time, where we rotate through different subjects. The core of what we've been doing for morning basket time is these supplemental things from Simply Charlotte Mason. So they have got, I'll run through a couple of these for you. They've got music study with the masters. We've gone through a couple of them. This is Handel. It gives a brief little biography, that we read. We talk about the different biography. They've got the different songs that you listen to. And it just takes you through a great music study with the masters. A new one we did this year that we added in was Shakespeare. We really liked it. How do I say this without making myself sound ridiculous? I don't personally love Shakespeare. I never liked Shakespeare, even going through this. I will not say that I now have this profound, deep, amazing love of Shakespeare. And I know there are homeschool moms that are like, it's the most enriching, beautiful, wonderful thing. I'm jealous of you. I think that's wonderful. We didn't get tons and tons out of it, but it was good. And because I really want all of us to be familiar. I want the kids to know Shakespeare's different plays. I want them to be able to, in conversation, know who the characters are and know what people are and know what the point of it was. And so, so I'm not going to say we love Shakespeare now, but it was good to go through it. So we went through A Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare. And I do really like the Simply Charlotte Mason method, Shakespeare in 3 easy steps. Really liked the way they did that because I've been intimidated. I don't understand Shakespeare. I've been intimidated to start teaching it. So that was good. Then they have these poetry studies that you do. So we did Alfred Lord Tennyson this year. It's got, again, a biography, and then you go through his different poems and talk about them. These are all super short, 10 minutes or so. These ones we love. These are their picture study portfolios. We did Da Vinci. This is the one we just finished. And they have these full color, big, beautiful cards. And then they have instructions to say zoom in and you're going to focus on this. These are probably our favorite, is the picture study portfolios. Those are really great. So we don't do all of those every day. We will rotate and we'll do maybe one day. All we have time for is we'll do one picture study. One day, maybe we'll do a little bit of Shakespeare and some poetry. So we kind of just vary it up. And I don't really have a big strict schedule. We just kind of fit it in when we can. I do try to stick to it, but if those don't end up doing as much, then that's okay. All right. So unless I'm probably forgetting things, that was our core for this year. So let's talk about next year, changes that we're making. So as I alluded to, we are switching completely, I think permanently, away from Good and the Beautiful math. I don't think it's terrible. I know it still works well for a lot of people, but I was really pulling my hair through partway through this year. The second grader was really starting to have trouble with math, and she's always been great at math. She's always been good. Like, we've not had much of a problem. And it was just, she was starting to go, I don't remember this. I don't know what this is. I don't, you get to the point. And so finally, after a little while, I'm like, okay, well, this curriculum is just not working for you, or we went too fast. Like, we need to kind of just reset and start over. Like, I don't know if the problem was me. Was I not paying enough attention? It was just kind of one of those where it was like, we got to switch. So we switched her. I'll talk about that. Got her settled. Then over the next like 2 months, I'm like, why are these math lessons taking like an hour and a half with all the other 4 boys? This is just like, it's starting like many, many tiers, like something larger is going on that it's everybody starting to have a problem. So I'm just thinking, I don't know, we're having issues. So I started doing a bunch of research. What do we need to switch to? What could we do? What's a good solution? Started coming across a lot of people with very similar issues with the Simply Math, the new Good and the Beautiful math program. And it was like a light bulb in my head that I was like, oh, the curriculum has changed. Maybe this curriculum just doesn't work for us anymore. And I kept just thinking something was wrong on our end. And it could be totally a combination too. I don't think it's a bad math program or anything, but they tried to simplify it. And with that, I feel like they took out a lot of directions. So with 4th grade and above, there's videos that you can watch, but it just, maybe if I was sitting and teaching every single lesson to them, it would have been better. But math is something that as they get older, they need to be doing more and more independently on their own. And so we got to this place where I was like, this isn't working. All of the YouTube videos of people switching away from it were the exact things that we were starting to have issues with. And I went, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like, this is a new curriculum. Even though I felt like it was just a continuation of Good and the Beautiful, they did fully 100% redevelop the curriculum, and it just no longer fits well for us. I prefer the old. I really do. I prefer the old one. So, and that's totally fine. So we have now switched. We actually stopped the books midway through the year, which I hardly ever do because I'm like, we already got these. Although I had downloaded those for free and printed them myself. So that was easier. I hadn't spent a ton of money on curriculum, but at a certain point, you gotta cut it and start over. Like, sometimes you just need to. So what I did with Magnolia is we got to the point where math was terrible. Math was no good, horrible. There's always, with math, you're always going to have some random tears and frustrations, but it was like an uphill battle. So we cut Good and the Beautiful early for her this year in like January. And what we switched to, we did this math for the boys way back at the beginning when my older boys were kindergarten, 1st grade. We went back to master books, math lessons for a living education. What I did was, this is a little bit of a gentler math program, which is what I felt like we needed for her this year. And I started her back over on level 2. So she was in the Good and the Beautiful level 2, which is already probably a bit advanced. We started her back over on level 2, which is way too easy for her. I knew that it would be, but I also didn't want to jump into a higher book and have her be frustrated and feeling like she's still missing things. And so I really wanted to boost her confidence. I wanted her to feel like, oh, I can get back into this. It's been very easy, but it's been good practice for her to go back to some basics. And she told me like a week and a half in, she was like, Mom, I love math. And like, I don't even think she realized what a 180 turn that was from just, a couple weeks before where she hated math and it was terrible. And so it was a really, really good decision. And I have loved going back to master books, how simple the pages are, how easy it is. And it has been awesome. So she's definitely, I've been working her really fast through this book. So one lesson is supposed to take like all week. And we've been doing like a lesson a day because I'm like, oh yeah, you have already, you just did 10 clocks. You know them. And so we've been moving a little faster. And she'll definitely be heading into level 3, like hopefully by the time the baby's born. And so then she'll do level 3 for next year. So I'm hoping to get her kind of back on track where she was. But my biggest priority was to kind of boost her confidence, get her back into it. And now she's asking again every day, can I do math? So this was such a good decision. If you are having a child who's struggling with math, Master Books is very gentle. There's a lot of stories. And so it's a good one. If you're at that point where you're like, math is really bad, I suggest just taking a look at it. You can download samples, but we really like it. So for this foreseeable future, she's going to stick with the master books. We'll see how that develops. For the boys, the older boys, they have switched now to CTC math. So we are going back to an online math program for this year, which we had mixed feelings about wanting to go back to an online math program or not. And CTC seems, we've only done 1 week of it. It seems like it's going to be an absolutely fantastic fit. They sell a family, a family pass. So I think it was $148 for our whole family for the year. And so I could even add Magnolia onto that. They have, I don't know if they go all the way to kindergarten, but they've got lower elementary classes as well, all the way through high school. You can put your kid in wherever. And the great thing is that they get access, each child, you can make a profile for each child, and each child has access to all of the levels. So we've been trying to place where Malachi and Micah should be, the oldest, because they are more on the advanced side. And yet every math program is different, which is the hard part about switching. And yet, if you're in 6th or 7th grade level math and they missed one concept that maybe Good and the Beautiful hadn't taught yet, you can go back and just watch that one lesson and go, oh, okay, yeah, that's how we do it. And so I'll give you a review when we really get into it, but the reporting that they have, the ability to actually assign your child things. So Jason went in and set up the whole thing and said, we wanted our math year to end at this date. And so then it auto generates how many lessons they need to do per week. Every Monday morning it resets. So they see what their lessons are they have to do. They check them off. We are really, really impressed with the program so far. So we'll see how the actual math goes once we get into it. But at least for this year, having a baby, with their online math, the week I have a baby, they can be getting on and doing their math. So it's just such a blessing to have something that, they can really run themselves. And then we get full reports. We check everything. They do quizzes. We really like it so far. So that's what we're doing. That is what math is doing. History. So history is our second big change. We are moving away from Biblioplan. We're trying a new history. And it is from Classical Academic Press. If you're shocked, I love them. Here is the teacher's guide. It is called The Curious Historian, History and Culture of the Classical World. It has 3 years that are meant for, I think they're upper elementary. I forget. You can go on and see what the different ages are, but it's a 3-year history program. So I'm kind of sad because I want to go back and do book 1 because we didn't do it, but it's literally everything we did in Biblioplan this year. It's ancients up through Greek and Roman times. And then this one picks up Greek and Roman times through medieval, Greece and the classical world. So yeah, it's up through medieval time. And then there's a 3rd book. And so we're going to do, if we like it, we're going to do level 2 A and B this year. Next year, we'll do level 3 A and B. And then after that, we'll do a more advanced American history program. So we'll see. From what I see so far, I love it. I really, really love it. So I will update you because we haven't started this one yet. We're going to finish our other histories and then we'll dive into this. But it looks really fantastic so far. All right. We're also going to, once we finish our other histories, we're going to go back to this program right here. America's History, 1215 to 1776. This is from the Tuttle twins. We started this 2 or 3 years ago. I bought it when it first came out because I wanted to see what it was. And we really loved it, but we had too much other reading we were doing. And so it just kind of dropped off. So we're going to restart it. What I like about this is we just did an American history program. However, this is very economics focused. So it starts with trade in China and talking about global trade. The first, we read, I feel several chapters and it was all about trade, all this cool stuff. And so it's very, very different history than we've ever read. And with a very much more economics focused, but it's stories. It's colorful pictures. It's lots of great stories. I know they have, this is volume 1. I know they at least have volume 2 now out. I don't know if there's more, but I think what we'll do is volume 1 and hopefully volume 2 in this next 12 months. So these will be fun ones. We haven't finished this, but I did read a good chunk of it and we really liked it. So this will be a fun kind of unique thing. I love personally this kind of thing for read alouds. So we don't do a whole curriculum. They're not doing worksheets, but we will sit around and read this kind of thing, which we really love. Another thing we're doing from Classical Academic Press is this beginning reasoning and reading. We're going to be doing this with all 5 kids. I think it's technically 4th grade and above, but I'm going to have Magnolia do it. She's going to be in 3rd grade. I'm going to have her do it and we're going to see how it goes. But it's all like reading comprehension. And like this page says fact and opinion. So trying to sort out reading a paragraph and deciding, is that fact or is that an opinion? This seems like, it seems good. I think this is going to be a fun little book to go through. So this will just be something extra that we add on, do a couple pages a week. Won't be too crazy. All right. What else do we have? We're going to do, I don't really have a goal for how many gather round units we're going to do this year. We pretty much just work through them at a steady pace. We pretty much do 1 unit a day. We do 1 less than a day. And then we'll print out the next one. So what we're going to do as soon as we finish dinosaurs, we're going to do Vikings. And I have a whole read aloud book series. We're going to read about Vikings as we do the Vikings. Everybody's excited about it. We're going to then do botany. We're going to do the entrepreneurship unit, and then we're going to do human body. So definitely want to get through those 4, but my goal would probably be to get through 6 or 8 in the next 12 months. So we shall see, but those all sound really fun. And then the last thing that we're adding in that's kind of new, kind of a change, is that we're going to be do Simply Charlotte Mason's Enrichment Studies Volume 1. So these books that I showed you, the picture study, the poem study, the Shakespeare study, the music study, those are all part of Charlotte Mason. Like they have a bunch of different poetry studies. They have a bunch of the art portfolios. So we've just been kind of doing those on our own. But Simply Charlotte Mason has a whole enrichment studies program for the year where she actually has an entire schedule and those laid out where like day 1, you're doing music and you're doing 5 minutes from this book and you're doing this and an actual like, you know, you're going through the whole program. And so since we've been adding those in already pretty successfully, I think it's not going to be too much of a leap because it's a kind of a big program. Otherwise, I'd be nervous adding something like this in, but we've pretty much been doing it, but there's just a little bit of additional reading. And I like that the schedule is already done. So we're actually going to jump in with volume 1 and do the whole thing. And so one of the things they add that I'm really excited about is this book called Laying Down the Rails, a Charlotte Mason Habits Handbook. So it's about developing good habits, with kids, use of time, priorities, just all kinds of stuff. So there's a teacher's guide and then there's 2 children's guides, Laying Down the Rails for Children. No, so I think we just read through this. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but it's just a little bit of reading. And then these are already built into the schedule, which we're excited about. So those are the things that we will be adding in as well to our morning basket time. Jason and I always sit down and plan all of our stuff. And at first he was like, whoa, we're doing a lot of changes. And I was like, actually, because that's one thing we want to make sure. Jason and I get very excited about school and we can add in too much stuff. And so I was like, actually, we're just swapping out one history for the other. We're swapping out one math for the other. So we're not really adding much this year, right? Right? See, now I'm getting nervous. But the enrichment studies will be kind of a little bit of a step up, but it feels very doable. So we're doing that. And then the last thing that we are adding in, actually, we've been doing this very inconsistently. There is a literature program called Omnibus. It is a heavy duty literature program. It starts in 7th grade, although you can start it whenever. And there are 6 books. So we would really, really, really like to start it in 7th grade. But it's pretty rigorous. And so we would like the boys to start in 7th grade and go through the whole program all the way through 12th grade. But it's big literature. It's kind of a big thing. And Veritas curriculum, they have a kind of gap year that's supposed to be a year or two that you take where you get the kids ready for omnibus. So we are doing that this year with Malachi and Micah. We're not doing like the full program. We're just reading all of the books from it. So right now we're reading King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. King Arthur, I forget what the exact title of the one, but it's the classic one that we're reading. And we're reading that at night with Malachi and Micah, just the four of us. Like we'll take 10 or 15 minutes or read one chapter. And we've been doing that a couple nights a week. Now, when we started it, we were really good. And now we just haven't done it in like weeks. And so Jason and I were like, we need to get back on this because that gives us this entire year to read through that list with them and just get them more used to the Knights of the Round Table is a really interesting story, but it's older language. It can be really dry in spots. And it's some of that older literature you kind of have to just get a taste for. You have to get used to it not being flashy and fast. And the stories don't always... a lot of older books will just very much one chapter closes and the next one is 6 months later and it's completely unrelated to what was happening. So really getting them used to that literature before they dive into omnibus in 7th grade. So we are very much looking at this next year for the older kids as being very much a transition year from elementary school into middle school, high school, really learning. They're going to be taking on a lot more independent studies, working on things on their own, really owning their school. They're going to be doing, the devotions that they're going to be doing on their own, starting to really teach them that. Just a lot of stuff, not dumping it all on them at once, but intermittently giving them more and more things as they get older and start handling more and more independent stuff, which is going to be fun. So yeah, there's other extra things I could talk about, all the fun things that we do, but that is the core of what we're going to be doing. I feel really, really good about this next year. I feel really excited. Another change is that we started making a daily schedule for the kids. So we've never been super, I'm definitely more of a creative personality and we're very, especially in the younger grades. Like if we had times where, we didn't get school done today, that's okay. Like I'm not the biggest, like super strict, rigid schedule. But as they get older and are starting to take on more of their stuff, we want to teach them the skills of regulating your own schoolwork, learning how to do this. And now that they're all older, we want them reading much more broadly on their own. So we have started a schedule now. We've been doing this for a couple weeks and it works really well. I need to get next week's schedules put together. Where we've got they love having a checklist. So we'll put their math lesson and, everything on the checklist. But the important thing is they have 5 different readings that they have to do every day for the 5 older kids. So it'll be, we bought this like kids encyclopedia set, which are really, really interesting. So they have to read, each kid has a different one, and they have to read 5 pages from that a day. They have, they're all reading like some sort of biography. They have to read 1 chapter a day from that. And we have varied reading. So one kid is reading through like this science book on the human body. One kid's reading a book on birds. So they're all like varied. And they have to read a certain amount of time from each one. And then they have like their check marks that they can move through. And it totals about an hour and a half of independent reading every day. And that's been really, really great because they can do it in spurts. If I'm working solo with one kid on one particular thing, I can say, go pick up your bird book, go do your reading in that while I'm doing this. It gives them things that they can check off. And they're loving the fact that they're actually reading more because our old requirement was an hour of independent reading a day. So this is actually more reading, but it feels like less because it's broken up. And so they really like it because if they happen to be in a really boring book, well, it's only a few pages you have to read or 1 chapter and then you're on to the next thing. So that's been great. And I've been getting really creative with finding lots of different cool books for them to read. History and science and nature and biographies and all kinds of things. And then the last thing is adding in preschool. So what we are going to be doing, the main thing that Maverick will be doing this year is 100 easy lessons to teach your child to read. This is what I've used with all 5 other kids to teach them how to read. I have no plans for this. I have no goals. He is young. He's only 4. He's very motivated. He could start reading at 4. And he may not be really ready. He might do the first third of this book and then hit kind of a developmental block and he's not ready and we'll take a few months off. But he is motivated. He is asking me all the time, letter sounds, he's really ready. At least he thinks he's ready. So we're going to start this and see how it goes. And then he always wants to sit and do school. my other boys were not like this. My daughter was like this. My other boys were at 4 to running around and playing to want to sit and do worksheets. So if your boys are not like this, or your daughter, that's okay. But he wants to like sit and do worksheets. He's just very much that personality. So I am going to get, go ahead and start our preschool curriculum with him, which is like doing a sheet or 2 a day. Super easy. I have done both. So I'm trying to decide, I need to get back to preschool because Magnolia's heading into 3rd. It's been that long since I've had a preschooler. And so I'm trying to decide what I want to do with him. So I'm either going to use the Good and the Beautiful preschool or Gather Round preschool. And I just need to download samples of both and remember which one I liked better. And I don't know. It's really not a big deal, but I just need to decide so he can get started on those. So that's what we're doing for preschool. That is my very long, just went through, I feel like, a lot of stuff. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, you can let me know. And yeah, we can chat more about this. We did do a homeschool Q&A on Instagram the other day, which was really fun, talking about how do you teach kindergarten? How do you do all this stuff? I mean, my oldest are only going into 6th grade, but I feel like now I have really good experience from elementary school. I can't tell you anything about middle school or high school. Really good experience in elementary school at this point. And I'm in the middle of it still. So that helps me remember things. Because even now I'm like, people are like, what about preschool? I'm like, I was so long ago. I forget. I got to rebrush up on it. But I am thankful for the perspective. Jason was homeschooled K through 12th. I was in public school. And so I like being able to pull that information as well from public school. You know, and him having that experience K through 12 is a lot. It means a lot too, because I'm like, what did you do? What did you have? It's very nice to be 2nd generation homeschooler. It gives us a lot more confidence. And Jason's mom did it excellent. She did really, really good homeschool with them. So that is a very good experience to be able to pull from. All right. Well, that's it. I'm going to end there. If you guys have questions, go ahead and comment, let me know, and we can chat further if we need to on homeschool subjects. But that is my curriculum haul for the year. And I will keep you updated on some of this new stuff, how it's going, what we add through the year, because I'm sure we will, and all of that. So thank you, ladies, so much for tuning in, and we'll see you back here next week for the next episode.